Hello everybody, this video is going to be talking about a secret little town called Santaquin, Utah. It is up and coming, it is growing, it has a lot of pros. It also has some cons that we're going to be talking about. This is a city that is really unknown by a lot of locals. They think of it as being far out and rural and small, but a lot of people relocating into the state are finding incredible value. I'm Micah Olson. I am your Utah County YouTubing real estate agent. I make videos like this for people just like you so that you can get to know Utah County. Be sure to like and subscribe if you want to learn more about different places in Utah County. Let's start with two of the major pros about living in Santaquin. The first being the affordability and the value that you can get for your money, and the second being how family friendly this community is. So we'll start with the value. A lot of people living in Utah County think of Santaquin as being way out there. I still have people that call me and they say, we want to go as far south as Payson, not to Santaquin. We don't want to be that far out. But what they don't know is that the commute times from Santaquin are actually less than a lot of areas in Payson and Elkridge and Salem and Woodland Hills. So it's really not that far out. As far as the small town, it really does have a small town feeling. And it used to be that there was really nowhere to shop and not a lot to do out there. Now they've got a good grocery store, they've got a few restaurants popping up, and you're within about 10 minutes of some other dining and entertainment options, movie theaters and bowling and restaurants and things like that. So what that gets for you is larger homes on larger lots with a pretty good commute time compared to a lot of other South Utah County cities, but for a much more affordable price. I just had a client that was looking and they wanted to live within about a half an hour of Provo, and they were considering up in Eagle Mountain, which I have another city review for, or they were considering down in South Utah County. And we actually found the exact same floor plan from the same builder with the same features, and it cost them about 10% less to live in Santaquin. And not only that, their property back to a park. They had the fenced yard with a gate right out to the pickleball courts and the pool and the clubhouse, so a better location, exact same property, 10% less on the price. That's huge. So if you're wanting to be close to central Utah County, Santaquin could be a great option. It might be a little bit far south if you're needing to commute up into Salt Lake often. We'll talk about drive times and commutes, but for now, huge pro for Santaquin, Utah is the affordability and the quality of what you can get for your money. Let's shift over to the family-friendly environment. This is a small town. There is a lot of community. There are cool little kind of rural feeling community events. I actually love them. Every winter they have what they call holly days. Get it? Holly days. Sorry. And they do a lot of fun things. They have a lot of food trucks. They have a drone light show that they do. They have a Christmas boutique with handcrafted items for sale from local vendors. They do a big gingerbread display and lots of community performances and things. It's kind of a cool holiday vibe that you can get out there. Then every summer they have orchard days. They have a big rodeo. They actually have a cute little youth rodeo that they do, and prices to get in are really cheap compared to some other rodeos. It's about $10 to $12 a person. During orchard day, they have all kinds of handcrafted items from local vendors. They have a 3x3 basketball tournament. They have pickleball tournaments. They have a horseshoe tournament. If you want to get that rural feeling, you better start practicing. Part of the local community performances that they do is a family-friendly comedy show, just kind of a really down-to-earth, homey community. Another thing that makes Santaquin a really good place to live, and I put this into my family-friendly category, is the cost of living. Now, a lot of sites will just group Santaquin in with Utah County in general, and they say that it's higher housing costs and higher cost of living than the national average. But there's a couple of things to remember with this. First of all, Utah County in general will rank slightly higher than national averages for cost of living. But compared to large metropolitan cities like Phoenix and San Francisco and LA and Atlanta, Georgia, and places that a lot of people are moving here from, Utah County in general general has a lower cost of living. Now, Santaquin, because it gets grouped in with Utah County, I don't think sites like Best Places actually study Santaquin by itself. They rank the housing as higher than the national average, and it probably is a little bit, but if you really dive in and look at local numbers, even sites like bestplaces.net will say that groceries cost less, healthcare costs less, travel costs less, probably because you're not going anywhere. Utilities costs are lower, and you're getting larger homes on larger lots. So in general, Santaquin, Utah has a great cost of living, in my opinion, if you're considering a move to Utah County. And when you jump onto sites like neighborhoodscout.com and you're looking at crime rates, Santaquin, Utah's crime rate is incredibly low. Other cities that I review in Utah County are always very, very low. The national average for violent crime is 4 per 1,000. In Santaquin, the number is 0.65, so incredibly low crime rates. And then you have a school district that is really, in my opinion, excellent. My children go to the Nebo School District and we love it. Their focus on mental health and inclusion is really, really phenomenal and stands out compared to a lot of other school districts in Utah. However, this will be a little bit of a con as well. If you're looking at schools that are specifically in Santaquin, you're going to see a lot of 6 out of 10s and 5 out of 10s. They don't love small town schools. But as an upside and something to understand about Santaquin, the high school isn't in Santaquin, the junior high isn't in Santaquin, so your kids are going out to other schools in other areas that rank a little bit better. But as an upside, with all of the growth and new houses and new schools that are being built, there's a positive outlook for the schools that are actually physically located in Santaquin. Usually with new schools, they can adapt new technology and new learning techniques, and just even the way they're building the schools allow for a higher quality of education. So hopefully over time, hopefully, the school quality will go up, and this will really be an amazing place. Now, I've listed some pros. Let's talk about a couple of cons, and there really are a few. There's very limited job opportunities in Santaquin. I mean, most people that live there are commuting somewhere else or working remotely, which can be a real big plus these days. Generally from Santaquin, you're either driving into Provo or up into Lehi or the common areas, and so you have a little bit of a commute to get to a physical job location. There's really not any higher education opportunities as well. If you're looking for vocational training or certifications, most likely you're going to be heading up at least a half an hour to the north. There's also not a lot of great local healthcare options. Now, there are doctors' offices popping up and dentists and orthodontists and medical facilities, but for a lot of care, even probably primary care and then especially specialty care, you're probably heading up to Spanish Fork, or if you have more specific needs, probably up to Provo or Lehi. And while we're talking about commuting and getting places, there really is not great public transportation in Santaquin. It's a rural town. There are some buses that hit down there and then head back up north, but for the most part, you're going to be driving your own car. There's not a lot of walkability. There's not a lot of public transportation, and I don't see that coming to Santaquin for quite a while. However, that brings me to one of the pros for the area as well. There's just not a ton of traffic. You're not really going to have huge rush hour traffic. The main street will get a little bit busy around 5:30 to 6 o'clock as people are coming back home from further north in Utah County. But in general, there's not a lot of big traffic. You're going to be able to get where you want to go without delays. And the proximity to larger cities like Provo, like Lehi, really isn't that bad. I timed a drive from Santaquin to Provo the other day and it was 20 minutes, which is phenomenal for anybody coming from outside of Utah. That's unheard of. And Google Maps reports a drive from Santaquin to Lehi at just over 30 minutes. So not awful commutes to get into the places that you need to go. And if you're driving from Santaquin all the way up to the Salt Lake International Airport, it's about an hour, a couple minutes more than an hour depending on the time of day. Let's talk about a couple more of the cons. There's really not a huge social scene going on in Santaquin. There's definitely not nightclubs and bars and a lot of things like that that you're gonna enjoy. Honestly, if that's what you're looking for, you're probably an hour too far south in Utah. You probably need to get all the way up into Salt Lake County and places up north. Sometimes I kind of laugh about Santaquin. I mean, honestly, like like your Friday night, let's go hang out, is probably getting a meal at Santaquin, which is a little local hamburger shop. And we joke around a little bit. We say, and then you could go and drag Main Street like the old 1950s movies. There's not a lot to do right in Santaquin, but you can get to movie theaters and other dining and stuff like I mentioned a little bit earlier. You're about 10 or 15 minutes away from that, just heading up into Spanish Fort. Another potential con is the development pressure that Santaquin's feeling right now. Now, in most of northern Santaquin, there's not a lot of building and growth going on. If you're all the way down in South Santaquin, which is the second exit as you're coming into Santaquin, there's a lot of new townhomes and new parks and pickleball courts and new developments and houses going up, and there's construction trucks and dirt haulers moving in and out. There's a lot of growth in South Santaquin, and there's a pretty good amount of growth in East Santaquin up on the bench on the east side of I-15 that you're going to be experiencing. And that's going to continue for the foreseeable future, 5-10 years. Santaquin is really expected to continue to grow into a pretty major city. And so there's going to be building, and there's going to be construction, and there's going to be noise for quite a while you move out there. Now, I already talked about the positives of that. With development usually comes pretty good appreciation. And so if you can, hassle through driving behind a dump truck or hearing somebody nailing, doing roofing down the street, this can be a great place. Now let's talk about the outdoorsiness of this area. With the mountains and the high elevation and things, you're going to occasionally get some severe winter weather. Now you'll get that almost anywhere in Utah County, but Santaquin kind of sits up on this bluff. It's kind of right over by the Wasatch Mountains, and so sometimes storms that don't really impact Orem, Provo, Lehi, Santaquin can get hit pretty hard, and so that would be a con. But with that comes the natural beauty. Driving up Santaquin Canyon, there's actually a road that winds all the way up through to the Nebo Loop. It's beautiful, beautiful in the fall with all the colors. In the spring, in the summer, just an amazing place to go for drives or runs or hikes. We actually sometimes will head just a little bit down south, and you can hike up to the top of Nebo from there. I think that's the second highest mountain in Utah, but a lot of outdoor recreation. There's big equestrian stops up in Santaquin where you can bring a trailer and camp with your horses and go on backpacking rides and things like that. There's certainly tons of places to jog and mountain bike. It's a beautiful outdoor area, and as you're sitting even in your house with the views of the majestic mountains to the east and the open plains and hills out to the west, it's a great beautiful place to live. So there you go. You make the decision. Is Santaquin the right place? If you'd like to go and schedule a tour and take a drive around or see some houses out there, set an appointment in my calendar below. I would love to chat with you about Santaquin. I love it. That's where my family is from. My father grew up there, and it's just a great place.